Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. So in the final closings of May, I wanted to do something a little festive. So for those of you that know, there's this challenge in May called Mermay. It's an art challenge where every day you draw a different type of mermaid, and you can use prompts as such to springboard, some potential art inspiration. And this is mainly what I wanted this video to be about today. Inspiration and drawing inspiration from other ideas and characters for characters in D&D. And so for the sake of this video, I'm going to talk about how I personally did this with one of my own characters for a friend's game. And this character is my Triton/Merfolk bard, Naylan Krith, and this is the first time I ever challenged myself within game to make an inspired build. So now, for a lot of players and people, D&D and even other TTRPGs can feel overwhelming with choice. There's so many different types of mechanics, and even too, what exactly do you want to build? There's so many possibilities and so many different kinds of builds. And even too, if you've been following the channel for a bit, you'll know that builds are personally something that I really enjoy making. But in a similar vein to this, something else that I like to do is take a concept and use it as a focus for making my builds. And in some cases, these concepts can be something simple like fire, ice, or mud. But in other cases, it can be something a bit different. Inspired builds. I personally love the potential of inspired builds, and I think that they're a great way to make characters in D&D. And what inspired builds are is taking a certain character, one that exists in media or in a different story that you might like, and then trying to figure out how exactly you would build this character as well as roleplay them within a game setting. So now, given this, please allow me to explain a little bit more about Naylan and some of her inspirations, and what exactly led into her character creation. Early in the prepping phase of the campaign that I played Naylan in, my DM explained to us players a bit about what the plot would look like, as well as what some of the other characters that have played in this world have been. This world was something very much inspired by fairy tales and folklore, and my DM's first players to this world all decided to take up the challenge of making characters based on fairy tales. And the group I was in decided to continue the challenge, and it was really cool to see what my group came up with together. And so now, fast forward a couple of weeks, we have our game. The team is my friend/roommate from college playing the turtle that outraced the hare. A good friend that I'd met while playing in an online game was playing a darker spin on King Arthur, and me, the final member of this crew, was playing a spin on Ursula from The Little Mermaid. And also, just so you know, the ironic timing isn't lost on me that the live-action Little Mermaid came out just in time for Mermay. I haven't seen the new one yet, and granted, I don't really think it's going to be that much, storyline different from the original Little Mermaid, not the folklore Little Mermaid, but the original animated Little Mermaid. Granted, I'm getting ahead of myself. What I'm trying to say is I made Naylan around the concept of the original animated Little Mermaid. So, Ursula is outcast from the kingdom despite having magical powers, and serves as the antagonist to Ariel as well as to, her homeland. And for my character, I take a spin on this to basically make Naylan's mother Ursula. And in this case, Ursula was someone tasked with being a diviner and a spellcaster to the king and the royal family. But despite this, Ursula's service to the king, many feared her abilities as well as the potential abilities of Ursula's daughter, Naylan Krith. And this fear of the power is something that escalated when the crown princess decided to run away and have some fun with some pirates. The situation caused a massive scandal, and the council decided that the Krith family would take the fall. They framed the Krith family, saying that they were trying to attempt a coup and take the princess hostage by paying off some pirates to take her and kidnap her, and that they were going to ransom her for the throne. Once news of this spread, the Krith family had to flee. Naylan's mother was caught and executed, but Naylan managed to escape and swore to take down the tyrannical royal family that abused their power and destroyed her family. And so, like mother, like daughter, many of Naylan's abilities were directly themed around Ursula herself, being able to transform into a giant octopus creature, manipulate certain aspects of water and the weather, and even place misfortunes and curses on other people and objects. And on top of that, she's very sly and calculating and will do what it takes in order to survive. And honestly, I had a great time playing Naylan. Playing Naylan as a character really made me kind of step out of the roles that I usually play and really try to cement my focus into how do I play this character and how would I make it work. And in my personal opinion, making a themed character can can be, focused into one of two different ways, and it usually works best if they're combined. So the first part of all, what is this character's story, and how would you roleplay them within the context of the campaign? Ask yourself, how does this character act? And more importantly, is that something that can lend itself well to a team game like D&D or other TTRPGs? And I'm stressing this part here because if you want to play an edgelord or a character that's a jerk or, just is a pain to be around, you'll likely be met with a little something called the consequences of your actions. Big shocker, I know. But seriously though, I think a huge reason people don't often really like, themed or inspired builds is because sometimes of how problematic the characters certain players are emulating are. If you're playing Joe Schmo, the random edgelord, from this anime you watched that, just goes around offing people and, really isn't a team player, it's like that's not really lending itself very well to a team setting. But also, too, just note, there is nothing wrong with making a character that is similar to or based on a certain character. But try bending what you know about that character's concept for a bit. Your character's based on someone or based on a story, but then how can you tweak a few things about that and really make the character feel like your own? For Naylin, the character's lore, locations, and even events were similar to the original story, but it was more framed as what if the kingdom Naylin lived in was really the antagonist instead? What would that mean for this character that I would be playing as well as what would be the ramifications of my character's backstory within the setting? And even too, how would I roleplay a character like this moving forward? And honestly too, you don't need to have all of these questions answered. And in some cases you can discover them in-game, but of course, these are things that are meant to operate as springboards to help you get inspired with making your character. And now, to another point of, inspired characters, how would you mechanically build a character like this? I mentioned with building Naylin that a lot of her abilities were based around Ursula. So now, what sort of abilities does your character have within their respective stories, and is it something that can translate well into D&D or the system that you're playing in? And now, honestly, a lot of people feel like D&D is too limited when it comes to character building, and other people feel like it's got way too many choices. And it really depends on who you ask. And for the most part, you're never going to make a character that has abilities that are 100% similar to the character they're based on, but it's still nice to experiment and see what new combos and themes you can create for your characters. And even too, these little nuances can still really make them feel like they're your own character instead of just this carbon copy based on, someone from a book you read. And also too, I love inspired builds because it's a fun way to break out of archetypes you might have locked yourself into and give yourself the opportunity to try something new. And in this case, when you roleplay the character, you can even literally ask yourself what you think that character would do if they were in whatever situation you're playing in. And this is something that has been, as I mentioned before, very grounding to me within roleplay and something that I learned while playing Naylin. So in summary, give yourself room to be inspired. And actually go out and try to make characters that are based on, a character you read about or saw in an anime or a comic or a video game or whatever else inspires you. Challenge yourself to think outside the box. But anyways though, that's all the time that I have for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and that it encouraged you to get out there and try to make some new character ideas. And if you did enjoy the video, then please subscribe for even more content and ideas. And in the meantime, keep smiling, keep scheming. I'll be seeing all of you next time.